Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to talk about why you need a small camera. Everyone talks about image quality, sensor size, resolution, but none of that matters if you don't actually film with your camera. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if we take a look at these two different cameras here, this is the Blackmagic 6K Pro, and this is the Sony FX30. You can see there's quite a difference in the size, and just in holding them, the weight is also massively different. I did run upstairs and try to weigh them on a scale, but they did not register, so I apologize for not having the exact measurements. But nonetheless, I want to run through quickly some of the differences that you're going to find with these cameras in their completely stripped down form, and why sometimes the best image quality isn't always the best option. Let's start off with battery life, because I think that's a pretty big one when you're going on a day trip or an overnight trip and you want to bring your camera. You don't want to bring 20 different batteries. That's a hassle. Okay, so if you have an internal battery for the Sony FX30, it's going to last you maybe 3.5 hours if you're recording on and off here and there. Now, if you take a look at the Blackmagic, that's going to last you about 45 minutes if you're recording consistently. So right off the bat, you're going to have to bring 5 times the amount of batteries for the Blackmagic camera. Second is the overall weight. Like I said, I couldn't get them on a scale and weigh them, but if you're going to be climbing up a mountain or really just on any sort of adventure, if you're carrying a Sony FX30 for 3 hours, it's not that bad. I've done it for about 5 or 6 hours carrying this up a hill, and the Blackmagic, if I carry it for 45 minutes, a bit more rigged out than what we have here. If I carry it for 45 minutes for an hour, my arm is falling off. And the last thing to note is the internal storage. So if you pop open this, you can pop in 2 SD cards. You know, you're good to go for hours and hours and hours of 4K filming. If we take a look at the Blackmagic camera, it has a spot for a 2 terabyte SSD right in the bottom here. But if you don't want to use that, if you want to keep it minimal and rigged down, is that a term? I don't know. But if you want to keep it rigged down and you want to put in an SD card, first of all, a 1 terabyte SD card, it's so expensive compared to an SSD. And you're going to need those speeds because you're going to be filming in probably 6K RAW. And also, you're going to need more of them because 6K RAW takes up a lot more space than 4K 10-bit S-Log3 footage. The whole goal of owning a camera should be to actually use it. And I know for a lot of people, and myself included, we turn this camera stuff into a business and it kind of loses its fun nature, why we started it in the first place. And I know from my own experience, when I only had a bulky camera that was always rigged up like the Blackmagic, I didn't actually go out and shoot with it on my own for fun. And so that kind of limited me, or like I said, took the fun out of it, and I didn't want to go out and film. Whereas when I bought the FX30, you go out with a friend, you can shoot whatever you want, and it has pretty good quality. Obviously, it's not super comparable to the RAW codec, but I think there's more important things to look at than image quality. If the camera that you have right now isn't allowing you to go out and practice your craft, and you're not actually enjoying using it anymore, you know, you're only using it on client shoots, it's a pain to lug around, you don't have to buy a new camera for that. I'm not saying go out and spend, you know, another $2.5 grand and buy a Sony FX3 or an FX30. There's other things you can do. You could get a prime lens to lower the size and the weight of your rig. You can try out some different battery options rather than using V. Try something else like internal batteries, maybe buy a couple of those, and get creative with your props, your set. You know, I'm using a tripod to film this right now, but when I'm out on a hike, I don't bring a tripod. So you set it on whatever you have, right? You want to film yourself, you want to film someone else, you want it to be a steady shot. You're not bringing an easy rig. You might not be bringing a gimbal. Use your surroundings, right? For this shot, I placed the FX30 just on a log and I filmed me and my friend Ethan. So get creative with your shots, get creative with your surroundings, and that can also save you a lot of weight. I think it's funny how everyone is trying to get like a filmic look or, a vintage, grainy halation. I think that's really popular right now. But at the same time, everyone is still so obsessed with image quality and resolution, which is definitely a factor in the quality of your story, of your film. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of other aspects like color, like sound design, like the script. Those are all the things that really make a good story. It's not always about your cinematography. Well, no, I shouldn't say cinematography. It's not always about the 6K or the 8K resolution. Me and my brother watch movies together quite a bit, and he is more focused on the writing. He really pays attention to the dialogue, and he always tells me that that's what makes a good story.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Whereas when I'm watching a film, I think just by nature of what we do, filmmaking, we're always looking at the composition, we're looking at the shots, sometimes we're looking at the CGI. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. If the story is good, it can get you through a movie. And I think he has a point, right? This is way off topic. And I'm sorry if you watch this video and you're like, what is going on? But I want to talk about this right now. When you watch a movie and it has a really compelling story, it can be from 30 years ago and you still enjoy it.
The next morning, right about the time Raquel was spilling her little secret, a man nobody ever laid eyes on before strolled into the Maine National Bank. Until that moment, he didn't exist.
But if you're watching a movie that has really good cinematography, but it has no story, it's a really hard watch, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you can sit down and watch beautiful shots for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. But at a certain point, if you're sitting in a theater for an hour and a half, it doesn't cut it. And obviously this isn't applicable to like Instagram or something like that, because you're watching a 7-second video. The story is not the same as a full feature film, but I think the concept still applies. And another thing I would say is think about the law of diminishing returns, because when you get to a certain level of any camera, the image looks good, right? There's no two ways about it. The image out of a Sony FX30 looks good, and you can do a lot with it. The image out of a Sony FX6 is better, but it's small increases for your money, right? So I can spend 2,500 Canadian, probably way less now actually. I spent 2,500 Canadian when the Sony FX30 first came out, and the Sony FX6 cost 10,000. So that's 4 times the price for an upgrade in the image quality and a whole bunch of other things. But what I'm saying is that you can buy this camera and it's going to do you good. You're going to be able to get a great image out of it, whether it's a $10,000 camera or a $2,500 camera. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to use it, if you know how to frame, if you know how to color, if you know how to sound design, it's going to get you a good image and it's going to be able to tell your story. So enough rambling. I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.